Happy morning to all. I'm Srini Nara, Regional Soft Skills Head, Guntur District. I'm very happy to host this show for along with my colleague, Ms. Dakshayani, and we are here for the Expert Talk Show. Welcome you all. I welcome you all to the Narayana Group of Institutions Expert Talk. The Narayana Group is one of the Asia's largest educational conglomerates where approximately 40,000 teaching and non-teaching faculty provide a world-class education for more than 4 lakh students spread across 19 states in India. The Narayana family is home to a flourishing academia with 300 students, 300 junior colleges, 300 schools, 300 junior colleges, and 8 professional colleges. We also run full fledged institutes for civil services, coaching centers, and correspondence to address the vocational goals of career oriented students. The soft skills department is one of our group conducts various practical learning sessions for all the students. In that set, one best segment is the expert talk. We have the great leaders in the society who possess expertise in various sectors. We invite such distinguished personalities to be a part of our talk show, sharing their personal experiences, tips, and other thoughts which can enlighten the young minds to ponder in more productive lives. So, before we begin our interaction with our guest today, I would like to quote a statement which our guest believes in, that is, beauty is in the mind of the beholder. I repeat, the beauty is in the mind of the beholder.
Yes, Renu ma'am, the statement truly reflects the area of work of our distinguished guest. A beautiful morning to everyone. I'm Dakshayani, Regional Head from Department of Soft Skills. I'm privileged to get the opportunity to introduce our guest. Dear audience, today we have with us a famous psychiatrist, Dr. Jyotirmay Garu. Dr. Jyotirmay is a neuropsychiatrist, therapist, and ex-civil assistant surgeon based in Hyderabad. She is a medical doctor who facilitates speedy and effective recovery using a combination of psychotherapy and psychopharmacology methods for people suffering with mind related issues like anxiety, work related stress, depression, addiction, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, marital issues, etc. Dr. Jyotirmai is a TEDx speaker and speaks at several corporate, educational, and media setups about mental health related issues. Her articles about importance of proper mind health care are regularly published in national newspapers like The Hindu, Andhra Jyoti, etc. She is an ex-civil assistant surgeon, chief medical officer with the erstwhile United Andhra Pradesh state government. She is an expert peer reviewer for Andhra Pradesh Journal of Psychological Medicine and a member of Indian Psychiatric Society, Hyderabad Psychiatric Society, ANCIPS Organizing Committee. Dr. Jyotirmai holds an MD in psychiatry. She is a state first gold medalist and she also holds an MBBS from Usmania Medical College, Hyderabad. Dr. Jyotirmay Garu is available in Hyderabad at Continental Hospitals, Gachibowli, Care Hospitals, High Tech City, Madhapur, for an in person consultation based on prior appointment. Ma'am, once again, we welcome you to the Narayana Expert Talk. Thank you for joining us. Over to Srinu, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Dakshayani. Uh, Once again, I welcome you, ma'am, Jyotirmay ma'am, a hearty welcome to our expert talk show today. So, but before we ask your views and suggestions, we are curious and also enthusiastic to know about your childhood, your family, your friends. Also, how you get into this psychiatric field? How was your journey into this psychiatric? Ma'am, could you please throw some light? Would you like to share your best moments with us?
Thank you, Andy. Yeah, thank you for inviting me over today to share my experiences with you. And I hope that it would be beneficial for some of the students and parents and teachers. I would be very glad. So I was brought up in Hyderabad only, Andy. I went to DAV school, and my schooling from my preschooling to 10th grade was in the same school. So I had developed a very intimate bonding with many of my school friends and teachers. We were all like, it was like our second home, home away from home. So most of the values, most of the discipline, most of the fun moments, I think the memories I have still of my schooling days are the foundation stones. So our principal, Sita Kiran ma'am, was the one who showed us the way, showed us the path. So yeah, and still we are in touch with my school friends. We are a group of friends with whom I think that is where the students, develop bondings, the peer bondings with friends. They learn values from their teachers, and that shapes their adulthood life also. So I believe that our school teachers, they hold a major role in shaping the child's future. So in shaping not only just academically but even socio-emotionally, socio-emotionally, how the child would be growing. I think it is majorly in both the parents and the teachers' hands. Then after my schooling, I went to do BPC, and I joined Osmania Medical College after the MSET ranking and all. And then I finished by MBBS. And there again, I had developed very good bondings with my teachers over there, and my fellow students who are still, we all, I think in this pandemic, our medical batch, 2002 batch, we all are helping out each other to provide assistance to other people and trying to do our trying to contribute to the society in our own way, because we all diverged into different specialities, after our college. And the reason I took psychiatry, I think in our batch it was just two people who have taken psychiatry, me and another boy. So we were like asked why, you chose psychiatry and all that. But somehow from the beginning I was intrigued by this speciality. I wanted to try to understand, what exactly. It's just not about the physical health, but the mental health also, which shapes the individual. It's biopsychosocial, model that we learned about. So then I got into doing MD psychiatry in Usmania Medical College itself, Institute of Mental Health, Erageda. So there we had exposure to various uh, uh, strata of society, all the socioeconomic background people we had seen with various mental health disorders. It was quite sometimes painful to see individuals left on the roads, suffering from, serious mental health disorders, a lot of, medical legal issues associated with that. So it was a very good learning process. And then after that, I got married. After my MBBS itself, and I have two beautiful kids, one 9-year-old daughter and 2.5-year-old son. And my husband, uh, he owns a software company, and my parents, they help me out on an everyday basis, taking care of the kids. And my in-laws are also a good support to me. So that way, I think we are all trying to help each other and move ahead. And uh, uh, so I would be glad to share my views about the current situation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. We are so overwhelmed to just hear from you your cherished childhood moments and all about the care that you have shown, the concerns that you have shown towards the people, and the social life that you have led, and being very sociable with others, being having a very good bondage with the others. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. Since March 2020, ma'am, to till date, even like today, we've been witnessing a greater change in our lives, and also the students. They got started learning virtually, and also they are confined to the four walls. Could you please throw some light on like saying that no physical classes or for physical school, but virtual learning, the impact on a child's mind, like expert point of view, what do you say, ma'am? How it could impact a child's mind?
Definitely, Andy. It's a very challenging situation currently, what we are facing. This is something that we all have not planned. None of us have even anticipated such a big catastrophic situation that we would be in. It's not just a few days to weeks, but it has been almost like more than a year. So this actually showed an impact on everyone, the adults, children, and all sectors of the society. And kids definitely had to face the brunt of this. Coming to before starting with the virtual online classes and all, I would want to appreciate, show my sincere appreciation to all your teachers, all the students, and all the parents who have actually put their complete effort in trying to make things better for the child. So I think teachers are doing a very, very good job here. The thing is, uh, this particular situation definitely is not under our control. People are trying to modify the situation, regulate, and get things back to normal. But there is something that a child has been missing on in the last 1 year. Let us see. For example, let us try to understand what the child is actually missing. When the child is going for physical classes, the child gets up in the morning, so there is a proper timing which is maintained because the school bus comes or the parent drops the child. So there is a routine which the child is used to, the routine of waking up, having milk, brushing the teeth, packing their bags. So much of executive functioning is there here. The child has to also mentally get prepared for all this, wearing the school uniform, putting on the school shoes, and then the school bus is there, so they have to reach down and go and catch the bus and go about. In the bus, they share so many memories with the friends. Then after going to the school, they sit with their friends in the same bench. The human touch is there, the feel is there. And then a little bit of gossiping will be there, the naughtiness of the child when the teacher is teaching and they want to just talk something, and in between the breaks, going to the washrooms or eating together. So all this is the child's life, the school life. Then coming back home, get tired, and home is the place for them. Okay, let them relax, for some time. Mom is giving you good food, and then do homework. Again, get back to your extracurricular activities. This is how the set schedule was earlier. But now everything, because of confinement to home, definitely children are missing out on all these aspects. So we'll first have to try to understand what is that they are missing, so that we can try to compensate it as much as possible in the virtual online classes. So this is the age wherein till I think 8th or ninth grade, the kid is going through a struggle, what we call as a psychosocial development stage of Erikson. He has given that the kid goes to the stages of industry versus inferiority. Okay, that is, industry is hard work. So the child wants to do more hard work and wants to get more praise. At the same time, if he is not getting, the child develops an inferiority complex. So during this, the student schooling stage, the child is going through these two phases only, industry versus inferiority. So this is where we can try to understand the child. In the online virtual classes, though the human touch and all is missing, I think the ratio of teacher to student, if it can be little bit of reduced, like see, one teacher taking care of maybe 40 students would be quite difficult than one teacher taking care of 20 students. So maybe the schools and colleges can sit down to try to regulate the ratio of student per teacher so that the attention given to each student is better. and the students also don't feel lost in the virtual world, like so many people, so many students are allowed. So I think that thing we can focus a little bit. And here, because the physical activity is little bit missing, so in the virtual online classes, we have seen that some of the online classes, they are focusing also on that. So there is a physical trainer who asks the student to maybe do so and so exercises or so and so Surya Namaskara and all that, which definitely the child is not just allowed to sit in the chair, but also do some activity around. So this also helps the child. So, and we also have to focus on the academic thing, and whether the child is good in sports, whether the child is good in arts, whether the child is good in social skills, and try to praise the child as much as possible on an online or virtual class. Each and every child maybe has to be told that this is your good skill that you are on, and the child has to be praised so that the child doesn't develop inferiority. So I think this is what we can focus more on the virtual and online classes. But definitely, when you have asked about the impact, it has impacted, but children are adapting to it. Slowly, the adaptation is coming. And let us hope that they don't need to adapt too longer and the situation little bit gets better and they get back to the physical schooling as soon as possible. But until that time, we as adults, our adult mental health reflects on the children mental health. So as parents and teachers, we will have to keep our mental health intact by trying to learning self-care mechanisms and all, so that we take care of their mental health properly. And
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for letting us know the impact on a child's mind. And we all know education is a shared commitment between teachers and parents, and the role of parents has increased many-fold these days. Ma'am, I would like to know your views on how should parents behave in this present situation.
So I think parents should first accept the fact that this is a reality, and it is as tough it is for them, it is tough for the child too. Sometimes what happens is we are too much engrossed in our household works, or if both the parents are working, the office works and outside the situation, all health issue concerns, all this anxiety, when it increases in the parents, it shows as irritation or shows of lack of time being given to the child. And as part of displacement of their feelings, they sometimes shout on the child, or sometimes ignore trying to listen what the child is actually wanting to say. So firstly, before parents can take care of the child, I think they have to first sit down for some time and try to analyze if they are having any problems, they are going through some stress, and how they can for a second do some relaxation techniques and calm themselves down, and try to understand and try to validate the child's feelings first of all. For example, let us say the child is irritable, the child is angry or shouts or says something. Instead of shouting back, maybe try to validate or try to sit with the child. Okay, I understand that you're unhappy, understand that you're angry. So let us try to sit and discuss what actually made you do that. What actually made you do that? What is wrong? What is that you don't like it in the current scenario? So please tell us. So, giving these open-ended questions, I think the child can better try to explain what exactly happened, what is wrong. So whether, let us say, sometimes we have seen there are some technical glitches or technical difficulties in managing the online classes. Either the video clarity is not there and the child is not able to understand what to do. Sometimes suddenly it goes off, suddenly it switches off. So audio problems will be there. So the child is also confused. What is this? There are so many pictures, coming along. Everyone is talking, or what to do, when to unmute. So these are the technical problems also the students are facing these days with regard to online classes. So I think we have to guide them on those problems also, how to handle those problems first, so that is it that causing irritation in them. That is first thing. and then sitting and communicating with them, is there anything else they don't like or they're having difficulty. So first we have to try to understand their problems. For that we need to give them some time. So definitely time is something that we are all rushing, we are all running around. So maybe just giving a little bit of a time and trying to sit with them and trying to listen to them, I think that is the need of the hour. Very simple thing, but if we reflect and see, most of the times we might not do it. So we might be spending that extra time sending WhatsApp forwards and all. If we see, we do have time in our hands, but maybe we are not utilizing that time properly. So what the child mostly needs is the time, a listening ear, and that is what is the need of the hour.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am, for the valuable points that could help every parent in this pandemic situation. Now, ma'am, nowadays we could notice in children that change of behavior, as you said just now, emotionally imbalanced, psychologically a kind of little depressed thing, and socially uncomfortable with others. So, what kind of behavior patterns that should the parent observe to reach out to the help, or who should they approach in this regard? Immediate whom they can approach so that they can have a better help to help the child.
Yes, Sandeep. So the behavioral changes that the parents can look out is, first of all, any change in their behavior. Earlier, how the child was, if there's any change they can notice. The change can be a passive or an active change. Active change per se, let us say the person is being really very much overactive, hyperactive, or trying to be little bit, talking more loudly, shouting for everything, demanding more things from the parents, or kind of becomes lonely, shutting themselves down, not talking. Earlier the person who used to talk so much, currently whatever, even if we ask something, or their favorite cartoon or something is played in the movie, is played in the TV also, they don't show interest in pleasurable activities, enjoying activities. They don't show interest. There is lack of appetite, they are not interested in eating. Or there is disturbances in the sleep, if they are getting some nightmares, not sleeping well, waking up more frequently, showing some worrying kind of signs, or being restless, moving around here and there, or talking about their friends. So sometimes they talk with friends who got affected with COVID or any other issues, and they can be talking about end of life situations. What if this happens? What if we lose parents? Sometimes these questions can be there in the child. So if we notice any of these signs of emotional changes like sadness, irritation, anxiety, or in the biological function, self-care of the child, if there is a disruption, then we need to understand that there is something wrong, and we will have to sit and talk with the child, or understand maybe where we are they mimicking us also. See, mostly what the child does is modeling behavior. They see observatory learning is more for the children. So mostly in the family atmosphere also, if they say the parents also going through the same phase, that they are all talking about situations, worst possible situations which can happen. They are talking about disease, death, and they are being irritable. They are shouting at each other. If such things are happening, kids also mimic. So maybe we can evaluate or self-evaluate ourselves if we are doing such things, and is it the cause of the behavioral change in the child? And so if we can identify that, we can address that issue.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing the specific red flag behaviors which should alert the parents to seek help. Thank you, ma'am. The intention of the Narayana Group in providing continuous virtual learning is to engage children in a more productive ways, ma'am. So, ma'am, kindly share how should a day planner be like for a child when attending a virtual class? As you have mentioned in the early that yes, earlier during physical classes there used to be a routine being followed. Now during these virtual classes, how should be a day planner like for the children?
So the routine should not be disturbed. The routine, what was followed earlier, I think if we stick on to the routine as such, or if we mimic an atmosphere of the similar routine in the house, it would be beneficial for the child. For example, setting proper waking up time alarms and all. Like earlier, if the child was waking up at 6:30 or 7, so now just because the bus is not coming, we cannot ask the child to sleep for another half an hour or 1 hour. So instead, we can set a particular routine of waking up properly, and then the routine of brushing their teeth and having some milk and going to bath. Taking a bath and wearing proper dress, a formal dress prior to attending the online class is a must and so there the seriousness comes in the child. There is something that they're attending to. It is not just a casual place that they are just going to while off their time. So this routine, it should be set by the parent, and where a proper breakfast also should be given to them prior to attending the classes. And I think after sitting in the classes also, the workplace or the place that the child is sitting should be properly well arranged. It should not be very chaotic, and it should not be very cluttered. So it should be cluttered free. And the books of the homework books or the excuse me. I'm sorry for that. So the homework books or the class books can be arranged properly, so that the stationery also should be arranged maybe a day before, before retiring to bed. Just like how they arrange their school bags, their workplace, the desk also should be arranged in a similar way. And then they should be proper breaks and in between also, like they should be allowed to go to the washroom, and some snack break should be given, proper hydration, fluids, water intake. So I think the teacher can keep on reminding them to have all these. And in between, after a particular academic discussion or a class, a little bit of a group activity can be planned between 3 or 4 friends of the child or with the teacher, where informal talking can happen about how things are, how the day was, or what are you planning to do next. So this lightens up them. It feels like a real, a school scenario for them. And the thing can be kept forth the child that if there are any doubts, one-on-one, the teacher is available, to take one-on-one doubts post the school time is done, so that the child knows, child should know that if there is a problem, whom to approach. So there was this another thing of whom to approach. First, they should be told, the parent also should be informed, and the child also should be informed that there is a school counselor, or there's so and so ma'am. If there is any problem, you can message the ma'am, or you can call the ma'am, and you can tell your problem, or you can tell your parent first. Either tell your parent or tell the school teacher or the school counselor. And after that, if the counselor feels that the issues are mild and they can counsel the child, that's fine. But if they see issues are little bit moderate severity, or the child is going into depression or anxiety, they can escalate to a proper mental health professional. Like we have psychologists and we have psychiatrists. So likewise, the counselor can refer them to take proper services. And physical exercise is something that they can inculcate, like post in the evening hours, any extracurricular activity that they're fond of. I think online virtual can also be used other than the teaching theoretically and visually, for dance classes, for yoga classes. So kids can have some kind of physical activity even in this scenario, which is good for them, good for their mental activity as well. So, and proper sleeping schedule in the night time also, not spending late nights on screen, and maybe around 9 o'clock they retire to bed, and they have proper 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours of good sleep in the night is required for a child to function properly in the daytime.
Thank you so much, ma'am. For sure, it's all your brilliant day planner. Every child who are listening, the viewers who are listening to us, will definitely implement to their life, and definitely that could be a great help for every kid. Ma'am, we are facing panic moment of a second wave right now. Few countries have already noticed and been experiencing of the third wave. So, how can we prepare our child to get prepared for this third wave, or what kind of discussion we can make to make them much clear about the situation, how to have a control, how they can care themselves?
That's a very valid question, Andy, considering the current scenario. And if the first information that the child gets in from the parent, it is more so good because they would be getting genuine information. And what kind of information we can share with the student depends upon the age. So, age appropriately, we can try to tell them. If they are too young and all, we can tell them that there is something, there is a small organism or a disease going around, but we can try to curtail it by washing. We have to teach them about washing hands, wearing mask while going outside, maintaining social distance. And little bit, if the child is elder, maybe we can try to make them understand about first the positive statistics, how many people are recovering and how everyone is using measures to try to get it down. So trying to give them more information about the positive things which are happening first, and how the government and how the hospitals are trying to control it, and how the possibility of the third wave, if we are not following proper measures, there might be a third wave. So trying to give them more control, like giving them measures how to control them, and trying to also openly telling them that they are approachable for any kind of doubts or questions if they are having. Please ask us, and if we don't know, if we as parents are ignorant, we'll be asking someone and trying to tell you. But opening up that communication channel is always important. There is nothing wrong in discussing briefly about the current issue, pandemic, what is happening, age appropriately, so that they get proper information and they also follow proper measures.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for giving those valuable tips for facing this upcoming situation. In addition to these tips, ma'am, what do you say would be the best tip for the parent, apart from communication, opening the channel of communication and giving them genuine information of the situation? Out of these, what would be the best one also?
See, the best one is while we open the channel, it is about listening. What first I have emphasized, ki listen what the other person is telling, the verbal cues and the non-verbal cues also. We should be always on lookout of what the child's emotional expressions or the other kind of throughout the day his behavior is. So trying to understand both the verbal and non-verbal cues of the child is very important for the parent, because the parent is only 24 into 7 observing the child. So he or she would be able to handle situation better if they come to know it better. So just trying to see if there is anything wrong with the child. And second is not minimizing any problems or anything that if they are telling, let us not minimize. No, that's okay, fine. There is nothing to worry about it. Just leave it. Sometimes we tend to say it. It's a very small thing. Why do you even worry about it? So instead of saying that, let us take whatever the child takes seriously. And just like an adult on adult talk, how we deal with adult problems, let us take the child's problems also in a similar way. And let us put a serious note on it, instead of just pushing it aside. Because sometimes the child always give very, very sensitive minor hints to the parents. So that is enough. If we catch it in the initial phase, we'll be able to help the child much better. So I think not minimizing their problems, listening to them as much as possible, that is the best thing that we can do.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for the best inputs that you have given for all the parents. This could help the parents, ma'am. Uh, Children are suffering from leisure time. I'm not saying that it's a suffering. They are enjoying this leisure time, I can say. But instead, making use of that leisure time in the best way, upskilling themselves, they are spending the valuable time for unnecessary things, like using Android phones more, keeping aside their brothers and sisters, or getting prone to the video games, getting more addicted. So children are addicting to the online games, and how to handle this situation, ma'am? How to have a control over this situation? How we can counsel them? What is the right way? Can we help them out in certain situations? Can we make them avoid this mobile phones? And can we stop this addiction to a certain levels?
Yes, Sandy. So before going on how we can try to reduce these addictions and all, let us try to understand what actually caused it. So I think in the current scenario, everyone is going on little bit flexible on the screen time, which is like inevitable because parents have to work, they have to manage their work schedules. There are no daycares or there are no schools for the kids to go out and play, no friends to play. So there is some kind of flexibility which has been set in, and the screen time has definitely a little bit increased. So the time which is taken to get addicted to this online games, the time to come out also, that we have to give it some time only. But first of all, and try to understand what is the difference between just playing the game and maybe getting addicted to the game. So getting addicted means the whole throughout the day, the child would be thinking only about it. The child would not be concentrating even while eating, even while doing any other activity. The focus will be on that, and when that is removed, there are very disruptive behaviors like shouting, crying, and not doing any other activity, and not concentrating on any other activity like academically, not doing homeworks, not socializing or talking with any of the friends, and not sleeping properly. So all these are some indicators to understand that slowly the person is going into addictive. So initially it started with just playing, and slowly it is giving a pleasure to the brain of the child when they're playing the game and they get a reward and all that. So they start getting addicted to it, just like as adults we get addicted to certain serials or movies, Netflix movies and all that. So when we try to understand the cause, what actually caused it, is it because we wanted some time so we just gave the phone to them and they started doing this? So where was the fault initially? So before blaming the child, whether I had given it because maybe I couldn't give time to the child. So maybe first trying to accept that particular thing, and then sitting with the child and maybe trying to set some time limits. So see, before snatching away the phone or before snatching away the online games, we need to alternate and replace it with something productive also to the child. We cannot just take it away and just say that don't play games, and you go off doing our own works. So when we take away something from the child, we need to replace that. We need to give some other pleasure causing thing for the child, some other thing we need to engage the child, because the child has a lot of boredom currently set in because of not being able to go out and all that. So try to first of all list down 1, 2, 3, 4 the activities that the child would be interested in. It could be playing a keyboard, it could be a chess game, it could be drawing or painting, it could be making something out of a Play-Doh, some clay activities. So what all your child likes, maybe, or a stitching thing, or a cooking if they like. So you can just list down some items, and then you can tell the child, okay, this is what activity so and so time that let us do. Let us start doing it together, or I'll get you the kit. You start this stitching activity or start this cooking thing. Maybe you can start learning some baking, baking cakes and all. They would love it, once. So once you replace the phone, or once you set a time limit, like only half an hour, or this time you play the online game, rest of the time they don't know what to do because they have got addicted to it. So they are not able to understand what else. So we need to give solutions to their problems, try to show them the way, and slowly try to get off. And still, if there is a lot of resistance and a lot of difficulty, then professional help, there's nothing wrong to take professional help.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. We have come to know that yes, parents have to look out for the cause and then plan an alternative so that they can overcome this addiction, what they see in their children. Ma'am, I would like to take your attention to another major situation seen nowadays, that is our loved ones being in quarantine. So in such situation, how a person can offer emotional support to a person who is in quarantine, ma'am?
Yes, Sandy. See, it's I think it's an age-old thing that we human beings are social human beings, social beings. So we like this thing that when someone asks, someone smiles at us, someone asks us how you are, or someone gives us a gift, it's a very feel good thing. So when people now who are under quarantine, they might be feeling isolated, and I think initially there was, and sometimes stigmatized also, thinking that people might look them in a different way. They cannot go near anyone, they have to isolate themselves. So it is a very lot of negative emotions are involved in this. So because of technological connectivity these days with phones and video calls and all that, I think daily once we can message them or call them and try to tell them, okay, everything is going to be good. So we might not be able to do magic or wonders for them, but then a word that we are there to help. If any help is required, please tell us, do you require medications, do you require some food, do you want to take care of some other thing outside. So I think that is what we will have to see. And in teachers also, I think if any students are affected, they can have a one-on-one separate conversation with them, and trying to academically, if there is a backlog, they can try to help with them. The other students can share some notes with them. And I think if teachers are affected also, the other the school management or the students, they can give a notes, greeting cards and all, they can send to their person. So I think it is just about the intention to let the other person know. If that is clearly communicated with any means, ki, please get well soon, I'm there for you, we are there for you, any problem we will try to handle. So that itself will be a lot of mental support for them, and a lot of mental support.
Thank you, ma'am. All the supporting words that we can give it to the others that can create magic in the other's life and make them happy and get well soon. Thank you, ma'am, for that beautiful words that you have given to us. Ma'am, I'm so happy to share that with with you that even in this gloomy pandemic situations, our Narayana students, they have achieved and proved themselves in a success with great success in various capacities. If we talk about the JE results, whether JE Advanced or JE Mains, or with the great projects of NASA and others, they are successful in all attempts, ma'am. And this is something credit goes to the Narayana system for giving that best programs to them. And also, it's the great efforts of all the children. Definitely, that credit we have to celebrate. But there are other children also, ma'am, with us. So I need a great support for other students. Ma'am, to motivate other students, I request you to suggest some strategies to handle the stress and achieve the success in facing the competitive exams or the situations, the challenging situations that they face in. What could be that and how they can tackle that?
Sure, Andy. See, thing is, children, what works for one student might not work for the other student. So that we will, let us accept that. So let us not even start comparing for the parents also, especially that, your friend has performed, you have not performed and all that. So let us not bring that into the picture, but let us try to understand what techniques all students can use, and they can evaluate what works well for them. Like working hard is one thing, the age old thing, there nothing can replace hard work. But these days again, it is the new trend is working smart also. You sit for 2 hours, you keep on reading the same para again and again, and you see that your friend is there, he just read for maybe 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and the other time he was playing around. How could he perform, he gets so and so rank, and how could I have spent so much time, and how could I not get this rank? Sometimes these are the questions that usually the students can have. Okay, what is the magic formula? So there's no magic formula. It is all about planning. It's all about working smart these days. Just not sitting and working hard. Hard is okay, but try also to work smart. So try to first plan properly your schedule. Okay, what is the syllabus? What amount? What is the possible schedules, possible timetables you can keep? Then trying to keep that all the 10 chapters I'll be finishing in 1 week. Instead of that, maybe you can planning little bit earlier, not just prior to the examinations. The time management is very, very important. Start to plan in the starting of the academic year itself, that how you want to arrange your. And for some, what we call as the Pavlov technique, that is nothing but classic conditioning, wherein for some students, sitting at one place, studying again and again at that one place works well. So always create a place in your home, or if it is in your college, a particular space for yourself where you want to keep it as your study place and you want to keep on studying. Because in that same place, if you study the chapter, again after 1 week, you read the chapter, the recalling and the registration, gets better. For some students, it works well. And secondly, for some, the visual memories, it works well. It's not just theoretically just reading the book, but pick out a marker and mark the most important things and stick-ons. This actually worked out for me well during my preparation of competitive exams. I used to have stick-ons with the formula, or with some the basic things I used to write down and just stick it out here and there, wherever in the house you can just stick on. And visually, when you see that and you're remembering it, trying to recall it in the exams becomes easier. So the visual memory, I think if we use it, much better, it will be better. And another technique is taking breaks continuously. The human attention span is not that you can sit for 1 hour and keep on studying. Sometimes the productivity decreases a lot. Brain goes into fatigue. So 20 to 30 minutes, you can take that time and then take a break after that. So when you take the break, the brain also goes into a little bit of a resting mode. It can completely register the information properly, what you learned properly in those 20 minutes time period. And the 4 hours, that is reading, first to last the chapter, you have to finish once reading, and then recalling, that is take a book. You have to prepare your own notes also, not just the textbook part and not just what the teacher has told, but sometimes our own notes in our own language, our own flow charts, you recall, and what are the main important points in that chapter. If you can note down in a flow chart or a diagram, putting all colorful thing, that is a very good thing. And then after recalling, sitting and reflecting, the third hour, reflecting of, okay, what I have learned, what are the important points in this chapter, this, okay. And then revision, the fourth comes revision. That is maybe at the weekend you can say, okay, this chapter, whatever I have written, whatever I have recalled, I revise with some questions, the old questions, the competitive exam questions. So I take it out and I try to evaluate myself, whether how good I am performing and all. And sometimes when mock exams and all in the colleges happen, and if you're not performing well, doesn't mean that you have failed. You're learning each and every step, you're learning. Sometimes what happens is they get very disheartened. I have not got the proper marks and all that. But we need to evaluate maybe why, where, which are the topics that I have not gotten marks, and maybe I'll focus more on that. And always a plan A, plan B should be there. What if, okay, this is this is a competitive examination, you aim for this, but don't get completely disheartened also, that if you have not got, you will have a better plan also. What is a plan B? It is not that there are no complete failures anywhere. No human being is a complete failure. So every human being has their own strengths, so we need to identify that strength. And I think each and every student, the teacher should take time to praise and encourage the child on that strength that the child has. Let us say if the child is of a helpful nature, even that should be emphasized, and keep on telling, you're quite helpful, you have a lot of empathy, compassionate, behavior. That should be emphasized this, so that they feel good about it. So when the person is feeling good, only they can concentrate more on the studies. So I think these things also can be done. And like I said, writing is very important here. Writing your own notes. The writing always, the memory, the registration, the recall, and everything is strengthened by writing and by visual cues, visual memories, keeping there, and time management also. Practicing these mock questions in a particular time. A person will be able to do it. Sometimes they take more time, but in competitive exams, what is required is in that particular 2 hours or 3 hours, we need to finish it. So the speed and the time for that, only practice and more practice. And if you're not able to, somewhere the hurdles are there, emotionally you're getting too much stressed up, please talk to some person whom your guardian angel, who it can be your parent, it can be your teacher, fellow student. please tell them that you're not able to do. These are the things that I'm completely feeling very, depressed about. So definitely a helping hand will come from some or the other way, but don't get disheartened. Try to work smart as much as possible. Get proper sleep also. And sometimes in the schools these days only, we are seeing that because of a lot of stress, they are getting addicted to substance abuse. They are trying to procure some kind of a drugs or alcohol elsewhere. We have seen, in our clinic also. Please don't resort to any substance abuse. That is not the solution to your problem. The solution is talking and trying to tell your problem to other people.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for sharing those valuable studying tips. Certainly, I'm sure that our children will achieve success by following these tips. As they say, every beginning has an end, and we have reached the final end of our show with our concluding query, ma'am. What will be your message for today's generation? Like, why should they learn? What should they do? And how should they plan to lead a happy life?
Yeah. See, what I believe is the need of the hour also is trying to show empathy. That is more important. And I think as parents, as adults, we need to try to show that to the child. When we are empathetic towards the child's needs and all, the child will also show the similar way. And they should be compassionate to other human beings. I think that emotional skill development is the need of the hour. That is more required. They should get connected to their nearmost relatives also, their grandparents, their uncles, aunts, at least on phone, how they are. So trying to establish as many connections as possible, as many social connections is important for the child to these days, for them to practically also, get a sense of growth and involvement in the society. That is what is required. Trying to grow a child who is more compassionate, more empathetic, more helping towards other people. They definitely will be sincere enough to also show sincerity in their studies and academically the growth, and trying to prove something and do something for the society, something good. So I think we have to develop, it is in our hands only to develop students and children who are more better individuals than us.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for all the valuable suggestions you gave for our children, for our parents, everyone. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your valid inputs. And Jyotima, ma'am, I could say that sparing your valuable time with us, being with us today for this talk show, expert talk show. Thank you so much, ma'am. And sharing the cherished childhood moments of yours, memories of yours, the valuable suggestions. It was lovely speaking to you and getting guidance for our Narayana family, indeed. I should say big thanks to you, ma'am. So thank you so much. And once again, I could say that all our viewers will understand the logic of your tips, your suggestions with their hearts. Definitely, they are going to follow with heart, ma'am. And thank you once again. And all the viewers, that's all for the day. All the viewers, we will be back again with another expert talk show, again with a great eminent personality with us for the next talk show. Thank you. Stay home, stay safe. Thank you so much.